self-doubt is like a huge problem in terms of like being able to go to the Olympics and feel like, you know, when it's ready to go, you can actually do it. How is how do you prepare yourself mentally to do something like that and make sure you can go through with that?
Well, in my event in the 400 hurdles, my strategy was always to know that I was better prepared than everyone else from the beginning, which meant that in the year running up to the Olympic Games, you know the exact date and time that you're going to have to be ready. And so you kind of go through your mind hundreds of times during the course of a night. As you get close to the competition, you may run your race 8 or 10 different times with different variations so that you've thought about everything that can possibly happen before you even get there. And so visualization is one of the most important things. And in seeing the labyrinth and all the teamwork that's involved, where you're the person who's running the labyrinth is depending upon the sounds and the people being in position at the right time. Everyone has had to have thought about that already, and pretty much in your mind you've already seen what's going to happen, and when it's time to execute, you just automatically go there. I left very little room for thinking or adjustment. I knew exactly what was supposed to happen down to the exact number of steps I would take in a race, which was a variation of 2 steps in 150. So it was either 151, 52, or 53, depending on how fast I ran. And the only variation was from the last hurdle to the finish. So it really just depended on how fast I went from the last hurdle to the finish that determined the final number of steps. But everything else in my mind had been thought of and calculated hundreds of times before you get to this point. So
maybe this doesn't apply so much to you, but you know, when you're in a team of people and they're all relying on you so they can go home, I'm just really afraid that I'll let them down. I guess you have the same thing with your fans and your family, and I don't know, I mean, how do you cope with that kind of pressure?
Actually, I never really think of letting anyone down. It's all about what I'm going to have to do to make sure that I do the best performance that I'm possible. Whether you win or not, you can't really control that. Everyone's not going to win. That's just a given. If there's 8 men on the track, there's going to be 3 that make it to the podium, and nothing is really guaranteed. In my last Olympic race in 1988, I was 3rd, and I knew that I was in the best shape that I'd ever been. Although I was, you know, and older for my event, I was 33, almost 34, but I was in better shape than I was when I was 20. But on that given day, it just wasn't, you know, the day that I was. I woke up and I knew from the very beginning that my body wasn't really 100% recovered from the day before. And so I had to deal with that during the race. And although I didn't win the race, I knew that there are factors out there that you can't control. So you don't really worry about that. You're going to lose races. You're going to, that's just a part of the game in any sport. So everyone can't win.
Just focus and do my best.
Just do your best.
And how do you motivate after you had one of those bad days to continue? Because when we were start training, we felt like we perhaps cannot do it right. But how do you motivate when you fail to continue?
You have to focus on the. Even in losing a race at the Olympic Games, there were aspects of it that to me were positive. I ran faster than I did in all the other Olympic Games, even though I was 3rd and had the worst day that I've ever had in my career. So it really didn't bother me because I knew that my capabilities weren't diminished. It just had a bad day at the office. So what you have to focus on is the good things that you do. You focus on the positive things that you do. And it's almost like a checklist. At the end of the day, you can say, okay, we did these things right, so now we know what we have to work on.
Edwin, I was wondering if you have a specific kind of race day, I do this every day, preparation or regiment before a competition.
I did. It was very specific. My background was in physics and engineering. I studied physics, and I, learned how to do things in a very specified manner. And repetition was one of the things that I really thought was important. And innovation in sports, from using heart monitors to having a stretching program that I did every day, to being flexible, to running a lot of a lot of cross country. So for me, on race day, the type of warm up I did on the day of a race was exactly the same thing I did every day in practice. I knew exactly how loose I was, how flexible I could be, what my reaction time would be after one half of my warm-up, because I did the same thing all the time. So I had a baseline of expectations when it comes to flexibility, when it comes to speed, to determine whether or not you have any muscles that are giving you problems. I knew all that by the time that I finished half of my warm-up. And so for me, consistency was everything. I mean, I had a checklist of things that I would go down. I had 3 different training programs. For example, if I was out on a Wednesday and it's really top-level season, I could choose from 3 different workouts that were different distances and different intervals between the races to accomplish the same thing. Because maybe I don't feel like running 500 meters today because it's longer. I can do something with a lot less distance with a reduced time interval to accomplish the same thing. So I had many, many different ways of getting things done. And I had about 12 different elements that had to all be checked off the list in order to really make things go right. During the course of the year, there was 12 different elements that I checked off the list. And once I did those elements, and I knew pretty much what I was capable of doing.
So how do you expand your experience in sports to the rest of your lives? Like, you know, like the different aspects of it.
I come from an education family, so I always think that education is one of the most important experiences that a young person can have. Becoming aware of your surroundings, not only your immediate surroundings, but the surroundings of all the events that are going on Earth. You know, with technology, we can find out so much more. And you have the opportunity. For example, my son is 12 years old. He knows so much more about the world. At 12, going on 13, he knows more about the world than I did when I was going into college, because he can get on the internet and search out things. And news, you know, the news cycle is immediate. And so I think that every experience that you have in life, from my athletic experience, I've been able to translate into business. I talk to students and try to talk to them about the skills that they learn in being a good trumpet player or a good ballerina or a good gymnast. All these skills really play into life. The discipline, the motivation, all these different factors can translate to many other areas of life.